Hello everyone, my name is Rafal and I would like to welcome you to another episode how I create this headshot. And today we're going to be talking about this image. I've posted that image a few days ago and it seems like I've received a lot of positive feedback. And of course there's also a lot of questions which I would like to address today. And even though you guys already probably have seen some of the information such as settings and behind the scenes, there's few things and few components which I think are worth it to discuss to give you a little bit of better understanding how I actually approach this entire process and how I create this headshot. So again, we're gonna go through entire process step by step. We're gonna go through the behind the scenes and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the lighting. And then of course we're gonna go through setting, gear, and then we're gonna go through my entire retouching process. And in this particular case, the retouching was pretty simple, but there's few components which I think were extremely important to take this image to another level. So we're gonna go through some of the details so you guys are gonna have as I said, a little bit of better understanding how I actually approach even the retouching process. So let's jump into the behind the scenes. So as you guys probably can see, I shot that image at the client place and the client requested image with the gray background, and I've received few questions what type of background did I use. So in this particular case I use just a regular gray paper. It's a roll which I bought in the local photography store. It's nothing fancy, it's pretty actually simple. I don't remember how much did I pay for it. I bought this long time ago and I just kind of keep reusing it. But the one thing what I want to mention regarding the paper is type of paper which is fairly matte. It's not glossy, so that's why I don't really have to worry much about any hot spots or any kind of bizarre reflection. So whenever you guys gonna purchase some of those backgrounds and you don't want to have this spills of hot spots, it's worth it to purchase something which is gonna be simply matte and it's gonna basically reflect the light evenly. So that's, I would say, a little bit tip. So let's go into the lighting. So in this particular case I use 3 lights. I use my main light, and in this particular case again I use my Retouching Alien Chrome Deep Octa 39 inches. So for the kicker I use my Alien Chrome Deep Octa 27 inches, and I use 3 speed lights, Nikon SB910 and Nikon SB800. And in this image you guys probably don't see, but there was another speed light behind the person, and on speed light I actually put grid to give me this really nice vignette, and it's kind of spreads the light a little controllable way, so I don't have to do this vignette in Photoshop. It actually do this in the image. I can enhance that a little bit in editing, but actually just giving me this really nice halo which creates this really cool vignette. I quite often use that because I think it's giving you really nice effect, and it's done naturally. You don't have to kind of worry on doing this in Photoshop. And I really like when the image has this nice vignette because adds something unique, and also the person pops a little bit better from the image. So as you guys probably can see, this is pretty much the same setup. We shot that, believe it or not, in the kitchen, so there's a lot of windows around this place, so I have to fairly close put my lights to the subject so the light from my deep octas can overpower the lighting coming in through the windows. It wasn't big of a deal. I think I didn't kind of feel that it's big of an issue, but sometimes I know some of the photographers struggle with this a little bit. The one tip what I have, just bring the lights closer to the subject and you guys gonna be good to go. So again, I use my silver reflector just to kind of give the person nice fill underneath the chin and just kind of make this light bounce a little bit off the main light and just kind of fill it up the face so everything lit up properly and basically softens the face a little bit as well. So this is pretty much the setup, pretty straightforward. As you guys can see, nothing complicated, shot in the kitchen, so I actually found this little bit of kind of place where I could set up all my stuff and just, you know, get the shoot done. Okay, so let's go to the setting part. As you guys can probably see, nothing changed in this department. I shot with my Nikon D800, the same thing, Nikon 70-200 VR2. I used 3 speed lights, Nikon SB910, and also I had 2 Nikon SB800, a little bit older speed lights, still work really nice. I use again my Alien from Deep Octa 27 and 39 inches. And let's go into the settings. So the settings, again, pretty similar to my previous photo shoot. The focal length was 200 millimeter. The shutter speed was 250 of the second. I shot this at f4, and the main reason behind it, and I've discussed this many times, I'm going to repeat it, I want to make sure that the entire face is sharp. And also she's got a very curly hair, so I just want to get the hair also sharp, so we can kind of see those curls really nice. I didn't want to have this fall of focus, so that's why I've decided to shoot that at f4. ISO 160, pretty standard, and also I have set up my white balance to 5000 Kelvin. So pretty straightforward, pretty similar. So you guys probably can see my settings don't change much throughout some of those shoots. It's pretty close, but again, you guys have to kind of like make sure you can adjust those settings to the environment you guys are in. Okay, so let's jump into the image. So this was the final image, and let's kind of see what kind of image did I get straight from the camera. So let's uncheck this. So this was image from the camera. So this was the raw file. I didn't do much to my raw file, being quite honest with you guys. I didn't change like literally anything. I just went straight to the retouching. So as you guys probably can see, the image itself is already pretty good. There is still a few things which needs to be addressed here, especially the skin. Even though she had makeup done, there is still a lot of things on her face. There is some, you know, little marks here and there, nothing major. There's some stuff underneath her chin. You guys can see some of the weird and bizarre shadows which we need to address just to kind of make the skin looks really clean and soft. So that was the original image, and let's kind of go step by step through entire retouching process. So again, the first step is removing all these little things which are the most obvious on their face. And again, I started with retouching the skin, so I just remove some of the hair. As you guys can see, I could leave some of them just to kind of give the image a little bit more impact, but I've decided to just clean up most of them from the face. So the entire skin is cleaned up, and we can kind of like make sure that this whole thing looks much nicer without the hair. So that was the first step, removing. I also clean up some of those stuff. There is something kind of sticking out from the sweater she was wearing, or some kind of jacket. It was kind of bugging me, so I just kind of removed that as well. So that was the first step. The next step, of course, is my dodge and burn, the first run. So there's some, as you guys can see, discolorations underneath her chin, all over the place. So I just cleaned this up just to make sure the skin looks much more smoother and much more clean. The next step was working a little bit on her eyes. As you guys can see, I just brighten them up a little bit, and also I just work on her eyebrows just to kind of make them a little bit more darker, to just bring the eyes even more visible, so they pop a little bit more and they basically look much nicer. So that was the next step. That was before and after. The next step, I work a little bit on colors and the tones, and this is something what I would like to address here. As you guys probably remember, when you guys saw that image straight from the camera, the hair, they don't have as much saturations. They're kind of flat, as you guys probably can see. So what I want to do is, in this image, I just want to make sure that the hair pop even more. So what I've decided to do, actually, I've decided to give a little bit more saturations and give a little bit more redness to the hair, so the hair pop even more. So that was kind of my goal with the color of the hair, to just bring them more visible and give them such a amount of saturations, which is going to make this image pop even more. And if you guys look at her eyes, they're blue, just kind of, it's a nice balance, and actually just works really well. So the next step, what I've done, actually, I just decided to kind of remove some of this stuff. So whenever I actually work on the hair and just giving them a little bit more saturation, a little bit more color, I affected the entire image. So I had to just remove all the stuff from the background and also remove from the skin of her face. So I actually just cleaned this up and just kind of left the hair with the saturation. Okay, so the next step, I did a little bit of liquefying, because I've noticed that the hair were a little bit flat on some of those parts, and I just want to work a little bit on the symmetry, just to kind of give the image kind of nice round curves around the hair, so it kind of looks much more symmetrical. So this is what I've done. Add a little bit of volume to the hair, just so it looks much nicer. The next step, I've noticed that there's a little bit of too much redness in her skin, so I've decided to kind of remove it a little bit. It's very subtle move. I'm just going to show you here. You guys probably barely can see, but actually I've decided to remove a little bit, because I thought that there's way too much red in the skin. So the next step in this entire process actually was the second run of Dodge and Burn. So I clean up the skin even more. So I've said that a million times, after any color adjustments or giving the image any contrast boost, I always do the second run of the Dodge and Burn, because this affects all the shadows, all the colors, all the tones. So you want to make sure that you kind of even out some of those stuff to make it look better. So that was the second run, and as you guys probably can see, this makes quite a bit of a difference, and the skin looks much nicer. The next step, actually, I work a little bit on the background, just remove some of the vignette. I thought it was a little bit too much, so I actually just remove that a little bit. The next step, I actually just work a little bit more on the hair. As you guys probably can see, there's this kind of piece of hair over here on the bottom, and it was kind of bugging me, because it was just throwing this image off the symmetry. So I've decided to actually just remove that and work a little bit more on the hair, to just give them a little bit more nice angles. Okay, so the next step, I did a little bit of frequency separation underneath her eyes, and the main reason behind that was, when I look at the image, I basically felt that the bags underneath her eyes are way too obvious, and kind of like, I look at the image, I could do this with Dodge and Burn, but I've decided to go with the frequency separation, just to kind of do the couple smooth brushes, just to kind of get rid of that. So that's why I actually just took a little bit of shortcut to kind of make this work. And that was pretty much my entire retouching process. Let's kind of uncheck this whole thing. So that was before, this was after, before and after. So I really like this image. I think the entire process was pretty simple. There's nothing complicated. The retouching process took a little bit of time, but again, this was something which, it wasn't something which I had to spend hours and hours. I think it was like 25 minutes tops to go through this entire retouching process. But also, when I look at this image, I kind of knew where I want to go with this, and I think this is something that a lot of photographers struggle with, and this is something which takes a little bit of practice and time to go through tons of different images, so you guys can see what's the direction where you want to take your image. And with this particular image, I actually knew exactly where I want to go, and that's why I think the process was much easier for me, because I knew where I'm going. Plus I kind of know what tools do I have to use to get there. So that was actually quite easy process, very satisfying. And it seems like this image was very popular. A lot of you guys love that picture, and I actually like this even more, especially whenever I get this type of feedback from you guys. So again, thank you for watching. I hope that was interesting, and if you guys have any other specific questions regarding this image, please feel free to contact me. I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. And again, thank you for watching. Stay tuned, and I'll chat with you guys very soon. Bye bye.